What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video. It's your boy Deep Rhythm, and we back with another video. Today we got a quick little video we want to make. Man, listen. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle. It's just a quick. This is gonna be like a 3-minute video. All right. So we're gonna break down and just talk about two things, right? As a matter of fact, we're gonna talk about the mind, right? It's just proper measurement of the mind in terms of when you should commit to something according to how you draw it up versus when you should negate how you draw it up and just go based off the feeling, right? So we have to talk about this subject because it's just something that needs to be brought to the forefront and talked about, right? You know, it needs to be addressed. So mental clarity, you know, or just, you know, that's what needs to be addressed. So sometimes when, you get into a function and you just going, right? You know what I'm saying? Say, like, for instance, you say, hey, I'm gonna get up early in the morning today. I'm just gonna do this, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna overdo it. I'm just gonna do a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And then, cause I got something else I gotta do, right? And then, like, when you get into it, you start doing it, you start doing it, and then you get lost in the feeling of it. Like, now it's just like, okay, so now my ego is taking on. Now I want to do more, and I want to do more because I can. And not that it's not getting me better, not that it's not preparing me for something, but I have something else that I'm trying to do, right? There's other factors in the play that honestly just got left with the feeling of me just going and, continuing to work out, right? You know what I'm saying? And then it really gets a problem because when you really get going in that feeling, you can start to negate, like, you know what I'm saying? You could want to do more, right? And try to push yourself beyond and say, like, hey, I reached my limit, I reached my cap. But now, even beyond this, let me keep going, right? And now when you get to that point to where you say, okay, so let me keep going. Now it's like, okay, so now I'm doing way too much, right? And that happens when, you used to pushing beyond and pushing past. I'll say like this, right? So when you become accustomed or adapt to always sort of just like adapting or just, you know what I'm saying, getting better, it comes to a point to where you just like, okay, you start to lose, I guess, like vision. You start to lose, you start to not be able to gauge, you know what I'm saying, when the cap is. You start to not be able to gauge, like, when the cap is, and like when to be like, okay, so now it'd be better if I do this. You start to lose that gauging ability, So you start to lose that. You start to lose that gauging ability, right? When you get into doing that. So it's important for you to be able to not push too hard and be able to come to a point where you're able to gauge. You're able to properly gauge when and when not to push too far, right? And that comes from mentally doing things according to how it's drawn up, not necessarily how much you can keep going, right? Because we know, you know what I'm saying, if you know you can keep going and keep going and keep going, okay, that's cool. But not every workout is necessarily addressed to how far and how much you can keep going, but how accurate you can do the workout and how accurate you can, commit to the certain amount of reps required. I'll say, right? So, it's about your ability to follow through with your vision, right? Following through with your vision. So that's important. And being able to do that is very crucial and very essential. Because now you can start to better gauge, like, mentally, okay, where I'm at, how much I'm doing, And it kind of, this is a mental, this is a mental relaxation. This is a mental sort of massage, right? This is like a mental soothing. This is like for your mental, right? This is like a mental strengthening right here, a reinforcement, right? Doing things according to how you drew it up. You know what I'm saying? So that's important, right? You know what I mean? Like doing things according to how you drew it up, because when you do, you know, that's important. That's your mental reinforcement. And when you start to lose sight of that, and you start to lose sight of how much necessarily that you can sort of continually go to, or necessarily you start to lose sight of just like how much you can, you know, want to do, or what the number is and what's required, and like what the actual assignment is, and like what's actually in front of you, right? You start to lose sight of that. You know, now you get to a point to where, you know, you stop being able to gauge how much is enough and how much is necessary. Ooh, that's the word, necessary. How much is necessary? You know, in order for you to, you know, move on or complete a task or build something, all right, or actually, like, you know, that sort of thing. To actually, let me say this, no, not to just do something or build something, but that's how much, you know, is required, you know, or you know, you start to, you know, lose sight of how much is necessarily required, right? So that's the important thing, right? So beyond that, you know what I mean, like doing it to how much is required, and doing it to you know, how much yeah, it's necessary, right? You know what I'm saying? Right, necessary in order for you to move on to the next thing. So, you know, without further ado, I think that's going to touch on that point pretty good. I think we hit that point perfectly, actually, as a matter of fact. I think that was perfect. So that's what we really wanted to talk about in this video right here. So without further ado, you know what I'm saying, we're going to conclude this video right here. Peace, love, and yeah, be smart. We out this joint. But before we end the video, I do want to say, like, you know, this stuff is important, like, you know, gauging distance, because, you know, when you can gauge properly, doing what's required and necessary, because, you know, sometimes, like, you know, when you can overstep, you don't want to overstep what you do in terms of just like, in terms of functionalities, in terms of just like rep count, because now you might be overstepping and you might cause some sort of imbalance somewhere else. You know what I mean? And you could really mess up or really F up something else, you know what I'm saying, due to some sort of imbalance, due to the fact that you was trying to, you know what I'm saying, keep going to a number or just off the feeling. But when you in your own mind, conscious mind said, okay, hey, I'm going to stop here, you know what I'm saying, with this amount, right? I'm going to let this amount be what it's going to be, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to go move on and get some rest, or then I'm going to go on and go prepare or rest up or cool down and transition to the next thing, right? You know what I'm saying? But or not even, you know, that aspect of it too, but you know what I'm saying, just in general, like, you don't want to push too hard one way, because, you know, you can mess with something else. And that's the thing, right? And now if you have something, when this sort of thing happens, then it's just like, okay, so now you can't progress forward. You wondering why things is messed up, you know what I'm saying? Certain things is messed up, you know what I'm saying, or imbalanced in your life, or just like, you know, period. You wonder why certain things are just imbalanced, and then, you know, trying to figure out why. And it's just like, a lot of times it could just be because, you know, that aspect. And then sometimes you may even wonder, like, why, you know, things you don't, you know, mental, in terms of just like mental clarity and things like that, and just like being able to mentally sort of assess and be able to calculate and survey, you know, survey the court. You know what I mean? You in the playing field, you can't really survey things and survey the court in the playing field. You know what I'm saying? Because you're robbing yourself of, you know, because you keep going. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, so anyway, yeah, I'm going to conclude this video right here. Peace, love, and yeah, we out this joint. Let's get it.